Okay, I think we're live. Thanks everybody for jumping on today's Facebook Live. It is National Suicide Prevention Week, and so I'm joined by some very special guests from the Boys Town National Hotline. Please welcome Julie and Nana, both counselors from the hotline. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. It's a really important week, and it's a really important month. And even more so this year. I remember we had this conversation last year on a Facebook Live, and gave some great advice and great information, but things have changed a little bit since last year, and we've got some new challenges that we're met with. So first off, tell me a little bit about what you guys are hearing at the National Hotline, and what are people calling in concerned about?
Well, we're happy to say that, things are throughout COVID are still happening here at the hotline. We have adjusted well. We have counselors still here on premise. So we made those adjustments. But people are still reaching out for help, and we're so glad because these are very crazy times.
Right.
Not only for the youth, but for families together. We've never spent so much time together. And so people are calling there, from the beginning of COVID, just kind of worried about catching the virus or how it's affecting their school life or their work life, their family life. So we've definitely seen an increase in the number of people who are calling regarding anxiety about a variety of different things. And really that stretches from teens to adults as well. And so we're just glad that we can be a safe place that people can call to talk about and process through what they're going through. And so
What are people needing the most help with? So, is isolation and not being able to participate in things that they're used to being able to participate in really starting to affect people? Is that kind of what you're seeing, or is it most of what we're typically seeing, just new stressors added on?
Right. I think throughout the whole, since this started, there have been a lot of calls about loneliness and feeling that isolation. And this goes from kids as young as age 6 and 7 that have reached out to the hotline through their parents, all the way up to people in their 80s that they can't see their kids and their grandkids. And so that feeling of being very alone, very isolated, on top of the anxiety that they're already feeling, and feeling like things just aren't going to get better. And it's a big issue. And if some of these people were already feeling isolated, or having some issues with mental health, and then on top of it, this came about, and it's been really hard for a lot of people. So we do a lot of talk about self-care and practicing what can you control in this situation. Take it day by day. Practice some gratitude, and just do what you can to get through your day in the best way that you know how, and try to remain as positive as possible. And we know sometimes that's really hard.
Right. So those are some good tips that you're giving people. What are some other things that seem to be working that people have commented that, this has really helped me get through? What are some of the specific coping skills that you're giving people?
We talk a lot about just good hygiene, taking care of yourself that way, practicing some mindfulness, taking time out of your day, no matter if you're doing schoolwork, or you're working from home, or you're homeschooling, and just take some good deep belly breaths and relax. Just give yourself that 5 minutes to do that. And you can do that anywhere in your house. Exercise is so important to a lot of people, and with the gyms being closed and some are kind of starting to open up, it's been hard on a lot of people. So we talk about, just going for walks, jump roping, maybe running up and down your stairs, doing some yoga, using YouTube as a guide because there's so many free videos out there to do that. And just, maybe doing some journaling, kind of writing down what's going on in the world, what you're feeling. I mean, this is all part of history. And so I know I kind of kept a journal for myself, just kind of like every day what was going on when this first started and what people were talking about. And I think it's important to talk about it with people. So if you can do, talk to someone on the phone or call the hotline or call a friend, keep communication open with people and talk about your feelings. I think that's probably one of the biggest things is don't push it down. Talk about it. Tell people how you're feeling and get that support.
Because during this time, I think people are struggling individually with different feelings.
Right.
And just knowing that each experience is particular to that person. But when you're going through a tough time or you're feeling down, lots of times you feel so alone.
Right.
You feel like you're the only one having these feelings or the only one going through it. So if you start those conversations and realize that it's okay to talk about, you come to find out that Nana's experiencing the same things I am. So it normalizes it for them.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of what we do in encouraging people to talk about what's going on in their lives because it is, we're heading toward the unknown. We don't know how long this is going to last, and if we can be to support each other, if not face to face, in other ways that we can provide that support to each other.
And I think discussions like this help a lot too because, being mindful of your mental health and that you need to take care of it. Things like going out for a walk with a dog, sometimes you can let those slide. And if you're not particular about it and if you're not making yourself do those things, you can really get into a bad place.
Yeah, creating routine is super important, especially during this time because everyone's routine went out the window with COVID and quarantining. So you had to create a new routine for yourself. Getting up at the same time every day, having a breakfast or exercising or doing something to create that routine. I think that was really important for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, my dog has never been happier, so that's
for sure.
Dogs are benefiting, I guess. So let's talk a little bit about. I know we've kind of briefly talked about this, but who's calling the hotline? Are you seeing more calls from younger kids? Are you seeing more calls from teens? How is that trending?
It is, over the years, we are a crisis line for both parents and teens and young adults. So we receive calls from all ages. And really, the impact of everything that's going on right now is it's affecting everyone. So no one is free from the stress or the worry or the anxiety. So it spans all ages. So I would say it's been very consistent between ages and genders. That our name is getting out there, and people are reaching out. And that's our whole goal, is to be here. One thing that I've noticed too is that we're getting a lot of younger, teen calls during the overnight hours. And I was just talking with somebody the other day about that and he even asked the caller, gosh, it's, 3 in the morning, what has you up? And it's the only time they get to be alone. It's the only time they had the opportunity to pick up the phone and talk to somebody because everybody's around. So, I think it's been pretty consistent that people of all ages are reaching out for different reasons.
So we've talked a lot about how the hotline is helping families and kids, but how can I, as a parent, provide similar support for my child?
I think just having conversations, just talking openly, asking what they're doing. See who they're talking to online. I know it sometimes can be hard to keep track of kids' social media and be on top of that, but I think having those conversations with your kids is so beneficial, not only to you as a parent to know what's going on, but to the kids, because it shows that you aren't just pushing them aside, that what they have to say is important, but just talking to them about what's going on, what they're seeing on social media, what their friends are doing, how they feel about it, having that conversation. How is this making you feel with being quarantined, or only going to school a couple days a week, or remote learning, or whatever your school's doing, and seeing how they're feeling about it, and what kind of things they like to do to cope. What kind of helps you when you're feeling anxious, and be part of that with them.
So I have a 14-year-old son who does not talk about feelings at all.
Sure.
How do I start that conversation? How do I, get him to open up and talk and get into some of that?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, if your kids are like my kids, they don't always come out. You ask, how are you doing? I'm fine.
Yeah.
What happened at school? Nothing.
Yeah.
So you don't get a lot of information. So a lot of the conversations will stem from things that you're observing around the home. That you notice maybe some changes in their behavior, whether they're sleeping more or sleeping less, maybe changes in eating habits. They're not as connected. You notice they're not as connected to their friends, either, spending time together or online. Maybe they're withdrawing from the family, or they're not as interested in some of those activities that they used to be in. When you are observant and notice those subtle changes, that provides you the opportunity to begin that conversation. Hey, I noticed Joe hasn't come over lately. Is anything going on with you guys?
Right.
Or I heard you up late last night. Are you having trouble sleeping? By asking those open-ended questions, it gives you that opportunity to invite that conversation, and it shows them that you care.
And that you notice, that you see what's going on, and because teens really do, they can hide their feelings really well, and even if you are having those conversations.
And we're in the schools a lot prior to this, but sometimes they'll say, you should know how I feel. Somebody should ask me how I'm doing. So
they do want to be asked.
Yeah.
Teens say all the time, how come they don't see that I'm unhappy, or why aren't they asking? And sometimes parents don't want to ask because they're afraid of what they might hear, because it's scary. It's hard to hear from your child that they're feeling depressed or they're going through something hard, because you may not have the answers, and that's totally fine. You don't have to have all the answers. You just need to sit and listen, and then you can figure out the answers as you go. You can call the hotline and get some help with that. That's a scary thing, to ask a kid, ask your child, what's going on, and they say that they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling really isolated, or things aren't going well. Because we want to fix it.
Yeah.
As parents, we're fixers.
Yep.
And even at the hotline as a crisis counselor, we're fixers here. But sometimes we have to take a step back and guide them through this and help them figure out what is the best step for them to take, what can they control, and what can they do. So I think just asking the questions. The best question is, how are you doing? you know, and just kind of let it go from there.
And sometimes they may not be able to verbalize it. You might have to help them put a label to the feeling that they're having. Because it's not uncommon when you're talking to teens for them to say, you know, you say, what's going on?
I don't know how I feel.
And it's, I don't know. You know, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. They realize they have a lot of things going for them. However, they still feel. When we were talking, I was just thinking the word we hear so much is pain. Oh my gosh, that's the worst thing as a parent to hear, is that your child's in pain, and to have to, you know, just kind of stay calm and sit, acknowledge the feelings without trying to fix it or say, how can you feel that way?
Yeah, or you shouldn't feel that way. You've got so many things. You've got so many friends. You're so blessed. We're lucky that we have what we have. You shouldn't feel that way. Feelings are feelings. They can't help that. You know, I always tell my kids, it's okay if you're feeling sad. It's okay if you're feeling lonely right now. We'll figure this out, and let's talk about this a little bit more. It's okay to feel. And I think that our society has gotten kind of pushed that aside, like you shouldn't feel this way, you shouldn't feel depressed, you shouldn't feel because you have all this. Things are going good, but we feel, we're humans, it's natural.
And there's a lot going on right now. So there's a lot of different feelings and and I think you mentioned before that there's no like end in sight. And I think that's hard, very, very hard for a lot of kids, especially kids that are, you know, facing a school year that's online and that's, you know, not what they're used to and don't know if they're going to get back to class this year at all or not.
Right.
Or, you know, I mean, that not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, I think is really, really tough.
Right.
Or, I mean, just think of the things that have been affected. The graduations, you know, the traditions that they've looked forward to for years. So the class of 2020, didn't get to experience those things. And now the class of 2021, it's so up in the air and they don't know. So just that, you know, some of that letdown and the disappointment, that those are things that are going to take, there's not a quick fix to it.
Right.
And it's going to be just kind of dealing with the day-to-day and trying to help them see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
That there is hope.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do at times. You know, but that's why we're here. That's why you organize this, you know, that we can, in the midst of all this, try to help people, you know, see the positive.
Right.
To make a difference, you know, because all of those things are ways to redirect some of that negative energy into something more positive.
So you mentioned that. You mentioned making a difference, turning it into something positive, like a physical action that you could suggest someone do. What are some other, and we mentioned breathing as well, what are some other, you know, physical coping skills or actions that that you often give kids to do when they're struggling?
Again, we talked about journaling. Journaling, a lot of kids like to journal. Drawing, getting their art out, you know, and just drawing and doodling, maybe writing. I encourage my kids to just start writing down things that were going on, because this is all part of history now. This is going to be in the history book, so I think that was kind of cool to have that as an option. We talk about just trying to find a new hobby, something new to do, whether it's listening to some new music or training your dog now that you're home with your dogs or your pets, teaching them some new tricks, getting some exercise, sleeping when you can during, you know, those prime hours during the evening so that you are rested in the morning, and starting your day, locating your happiness, finding things that are positive that are going on. because everything's so gloom and doom.
These coping skills are very individual to the person.
Right.
And when you're in a tough time, it's hard to think of those things. So we've mentioned our hotline, but we also have the website, yourlifeyourvoice.org. And it is specifically designed to be a safe resource for teens and young adults where they can go for information about the variety of feelings and situations that they may be going through during not only normal teenage and young adult years, but during this trying time. So on the website, we have some excellent articles, questions and answers that teens and young adults from across the country have sent to us and counselors have responded to. So I was on there just before we got on here just to familiarize myself with it. And it really is, once you get in there, you kind of get sucked into the different distractions because there are tons of tips divided by category. We even have developed specifically for COVID-19 different articles and tips and tools. So as you're talking about coping skills, there are links to 11 different apps that people can click on that take you to drawing different spirals or yoga, whatever it might be. So,
Journaling pages.
Yeah.
We just have we got I don't know if you can see that list of 99 coping skills. So it's something that we always talk about when we're in the schools is take that list and circle 10 things that you're already doing, and that can be very easy. And then put a star by 10 more that maybe you'd like to try in the next month.
Yeah.
Build a pillow fort. Go back to the days for teenagers. I always say go back to when you were like 4, 5, 6 years old. What kind of things were you interested in? And I always bring up like SpongeBob. Like watch some SpongeBob videos. Get the Play-Doh out. Make some goo and mess around with that. And just kind of go back to that, and it just provides such a great distraction for people, even us. Sitting down with Play-Doh, you just kind of get into it and you start messing with
smell it right now.
I know, right? And it's a huge distraction, and I think that list of coping skills is great. All of those tips and tools are they just kind of roll right into one another, and they're really helpful.
Yeah.
So if you something different just for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever that particular activity takes, it's 5 or 20 minutes that you weren't thinking about that breakup or that disappointment or that argument that you had with them.
Right.
And maybe you can change the course of the day.
I love it. I think one of my favorite ones that we've got on the website is the paper airplane one, where you write down all the bad and negative thoughts and negative feelings that you're having, make a paper airplane out of it, and get rid of it.
Let it go.
Yep. I love that.
And that's what's one of the links is it's called like the Scream app or something. And so it takes you to this place, you type in everything that you want to type, and then you hit this button that says Scream, and you hear this scream noise, and just letting it go.
Let it go.
Acknowledge the feeling.
Yep.
Address it, talk about it, express it, and then let it go.
Let it go.
And someone asked if we could repeat the title of the website. It's yourlifeyourvoice.org. And
you can do YLYV for short.
Yep. And Mary commented, take a shower, shave, cut your nails, use a face mask, put lotion on. And Matt commented, go for a good walk each morning.
Yes.
All great tips.
They're great.
Okay, so what about what signs should I be looking for? So in specifically talking about suicidal thoughts and what are some signs? We mentioned a change in routine and a change in normal behavior. Anything else I should be watching for as a parent?
I think, as I said before, teens can hide their feelings pretty well. But watching for those change in routines, seeing if you notice that your child is eating differently. And a lot of times that happens. Sometimes they can eat a lot of food and sometimes they're not eating as much. But just kind of be aware of it, kind of just watch out for that. If they're isolating, if they're listening to some different kind of music, or watching maybe sad movies, or any change in behavior. But then sometimes kids won't have that change in behavior. That's why we say, talk to your kids. Try to spend a little bit of time to see what's going on with them. If anything has changed with their friends. If they've talked to, Susie lately and what's going on in that area. It's hard.
Sometimes the signs are subtle.
Very subtle.
Like, maybe they'll say things like, no one would care if I wasn't around. Or maybe they start giving important things away that really mean a lot to them. Some might start to dabble in alcohol or substance abuse.
Self-injury is a big one. Kids self-injure, and self-injuring is different from suicide. They're coping with something. They're trying to either numb a feeling or trying to feel something because they do feel numb. So they may self-injure by cutting, scraping, scratching, picking, and it could be really anywhere on their body. So being aware of that, even.
So if I'm noticing those things, what are my next steps?
You need to talk about it. You need to sit and have that conversation with your child about, again, what's going on. Did something happen? Keeping that door for communication open, and your child may not want to talk about it, and they may be very closed off and say, I don't want to talk about it, or nothing, everything's fine. Letting them know that you're there no matter what, you love them no matter what, no matter how big, how small the issue is, your door is always open. And don't give up. Don't give up asking about it. Keep pushing, because your child's life is way more important than anything else in the world. And those conversations are really hard to have. And
it doesn't always make sense, but sometimes they try to push you away.
Right.
Thinking that if I keep saying no, she'll stop bothering me.
Yeah.
But every time you keep asking, you're showing that you care, that you love them, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes. So those are the messages that you say. There's nothing that we can't get through.
Yes, we can.
As parents, we're human. It's going to hurt to hear those words. Depending what they've done, we all make mistakes. You may get angry, you may be disappointed, you may be frustrated, and that's okay to have those feelings too. But once we process through that, then we have to meet our child where they're at. So depending on what's going on, and I think you're getting to this, Susie, is don't be afraid to ask the question.
Yeah.
If you are concerned that your child might be suicidal, be upfront with them.
You have to ask. You have to use the word suicide. And it's a scary thing to talk about. But just saying, not do you want to hurt yourself, but have you ever thought about ending your life, or have you ever thought about suicide? Hearing that response, whatever they're going to say, may cause you some anxiety. But just know that you'll get through this, and you have support from us at the hotline. If you don't know what to say, reach out to us. Let us help you have that conversation with your child. We do it every day.
That's a really great point. I like that.
Yeah, you have kids that call and say, I don't know how to tell my parents that I'm feeling this way. They have no idea. I hide it very well.
And we have parents who call and say, my child just told me that he wants to die. Can we talk to them? Absolutely. Thank you for reaching out.
I think it's important too to create time to talk, whether or not they need to talk.
Right.
With all of the devices and entertainment available right now. It's hard to get that quiet time to just talk, you know. Um, I found puzzles really work well. My family hates them, but once I get them doing one, you know, they'll sit and talk, and it's more of that one-on-one communication that we just don't get often, you know.
Yep, I agree. Cooking together.
Yeah.
People seem, not restaurants here are opened and people are going out a little bit more, but back when everything was closed down, just cooking in the kitchen with your kids, trying a new recipe, coming up with a grocery list of stuff, that's a great time to start talking to your kids.
Yeah.
Having those conversations.
What about if my child comes to me and they're concerned about a friend? A friend who may be having suicidal thoughts.
We do get a lot of calls about that. A number of kids and adults reach out about friends that they care about. Maybe they've seen something on social media, or maybe they've heard something. So we always say there are 3 things that you need to do. You need to ask. You need to ask what's going on, ask how they're feeling, ask those tough questions. But if you're going to ask those questions, you have to be prepared to listen, and that means putting distractions away. So if your child's telling you as a parent, my friend is, I'm kind of worried about him, encourage your child to listen to what that person is saying, but have that conversation again with you, because it's really too much for your teen or young adult even to handle on their own. And sometimes you've got to take some action. The 3rd thing is act. Whether it's calling that child's parents and letting them know what's going on, or calling maybe the counselor at the school and say, my daughter came home and said someone in their math class is cutting themselves and they're talking about ending their lives, and I just wanted to put that out there so that someone could check on them. I don't know their parents, but as a school counselor, you might have that information. And just encourage your kids to be open with you about that and to share that, because that is really too much for them as a kid to hold on to. If they have a friend that is suicidal and they want to be there to help, and we hear it all the time, I don't want anyone else to know. They told me I was sworn to secrecy. I can't tell my parents, and they won't be my friend if anyone else finds out. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay if your friend's going to be mad at you. You'd rather have your friend be mad at you than not be there the next day. So talk about it.
Yeah, that's the one secret don't keep.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know that if it comes to somebody's safety, you need to let an adult know, so that they can help you.
Yeah.
And it's a given that the hotline is always here 24/7, whether it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning. There's somebody here who can assist making the best decision in that situation. We oftentimes will, reach out to people too to make sure that, especially those teens and young adults.
Wonderful. I thought this was a really interesting question that we got. How do I talk to my child about suicide if it's a concept they haven't heard of yet? So, for example, if they hear it's Suicide Prevention Month and they ask, "What is suicide?" How do you talk about that with the younger child?
That's a tough one.
It's tough, and it's
tough to explain that.
Just to be honest with them, and not to, and you have to choose age-appropriate words.
Right.
If they say, "Mom, we got this thing at school. It's Suicide Prevention Week. What's suicide?" Asking, "Do you have an idea, or what did they tell you at school?"
Mm-hmm.
And just explaining that sometimes people, depending on situations and feelings that they're having, they have thoughts of wanting to die or end their life. So whatever words that you choose to help your child understand kind of the seriousness of it,
Right.
and that those feelings are okay, but that you are there to talk to them and provide them any type of help that they need to get them through those tough times.
All right. I think that's great. So what is something that I can do right now as a parent to help prevent suicide?
Talk about it. Talk about it. Be open. Be open with your kids about their feelings and what's going on, and use the words, that are hard to say.
Yeah.
And let your kids know how much, no matter what's going on, that there's nothing that we can't get through. It may seem bad in the moment. It may seem totally unbearable or embarrassing or just life changing. But things will get better. Like, this is just something temporary, and temporary may mean months, that it may last for months of healing or a situation, but you'll get through it. There's nothing too big or too small. That ending your life should never be an option, ever. That we can get through it.
And one of the things too we're encouraging people to do this week especially is just take 5 minutes and get your teen's phone or your child's phone, if they have a phone, and add the Boys Town National Hotline as a number, as a contact in that phone, so that
Great.
there is a resource there if they're uncomfortable coming to their parents, if they need advice on how to talk to their parents, or if they don't have access to their parents at a specific time when they're really in need. The hotline's a great resource, and it's good to have at the tips of their fingers whenever they're in need. Another great thing, we talked about the website a little bit, but Boys Town also has a app, the My Life, My Voice Mood app. Tell me a little bit about that and what that does.
So the great thing about the Mood app is that you can kind of track your feelings on there. You can set a reminder every day to put in how you're feeling and maybe what's going on to cause that feeling. And over time you can kind of see the peaks and valleys of your feelings, or maybe you're just kind of coasting along like on a roller coaster, just coasting along on that rail, and you can kind of see where you've been over time, which is nice. And then it links up to your life, your voice. So on that app, you also have our phone number. You can text with one of our counselors. We have that open 24/7, and all of that is available through the Mood app. And you can get to our tips and tools from there too. So it's super easy, and it's a free app.
Yeah, so if somebody clicks on the depressed emoticon or a sad emoticon, it'll automatically send them a link to tips from our website that will help them refocus or help them get through that negative feeling. And with the app, I think it's nice, you talked about those peaks and valleys, that as kids gather that information over time, weeks, months, maybe even to a year, you start to see that natural up and down. And I think that's an important message for parents to convey to their kids, that these teenage years and young adult years are not easy. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. So that's normal, that to expect those ups and downs, and every difficulty that they overcome, it kind of helps build that resiliency and their confidence in knowing that they can get through those tough times. And those are going to be skills that they can use for the rest of their lives in dealing with difficulties that they face. So just a big part of what we do when we go out to the schools is just normalizing struggle.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, or New York City, or Portland, Oregon. The issues that kids are dealing with are pretty universal, and just helping them understand that the struggle is normal. And kids are on a continuum, as far as even the most motivated A+ student to the maybe person who doesn't love school, their grades are not great. each are dealing with their own struggle.
Yeah.
No one's life is perfect. And that's hard these days with social media and the presence where kids look at that and they assume, everyone has it better, or everybody's journey is different, it's unique, and we all have our own struggles. So just helping kids understand that it's normal.
And it's okay.
And just that there's always hope, that things will get better. And that's a hard thing for teens to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A quick fix. I just think as humans, we just we like those quick fixes. Anything that's going to help fix something, whether it's our feelings or dieting or exercise, you just want it quick. But you've got to put the work into it. And it's going to take time, but you'll see results and you will feel better. You may not feel better, you may not be okay right now, but if you use the distractions and you get the support and you try the things that we suggest, or maybe things that your parents suggest, that you'll get through this. You will get through it, and it'll be okay. Teen years are tough. They really are. But there's hope. I mean, you'll grow out of that and we'll get through it.
I think that's a great message for teens to hear.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone would disagree that teen years are difficult.
Oh, for sure.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah, there's just so much change that goes on during the teen years, Their hormones are changing, their friends are changing. Life at home their relationship with mom and dad are changing. If they're getting jobs, school changes, different teachers. So much changes in those teen years. And feelings, it's absolutely crazy what they experience in such a short amount of time. So it makes sense to have those peaks and valleys of feelings. And
for the teen and the parents.
Right, for both. Parents trying to figure out what to do with those peaks and valleys.
We are equal, we're here equally for the parents as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes we bang our heads together, because we try all these different things and nothing seems to be working. And sometimes you just need a safe place that you can call and vent about what's going on. Because if I call my sister or my neighbor, they're going to judge me, think I'm a bad mom, or my kid is horrible, and this is just a safe place that you can call and process through that, and because it's not easy, and these last couple months have been very challenging for everybody, but it is, people are reaching out, they're talking about it, and that's the biggest thing, is getting the conversation going. So again, anytime we have the opportunity to talk about what we do and the services that we provide, we'll do it, and because there's a lot of good help out there.
Yep. Well, thank you for what you do, and for all of the people that you help. And as you mentioned, the hotline is for kids and adults and parents and whoever needs it. And it is open 24/7, and the number is nice and prominently displayed right behind you, Julie. And you can text too, so we'll put all of that information up on the chat, and we'll also include some links to the social media accounts for Your Life, Your Voice and the hotline, so that you can follow those as well. And go talk to your kids. Start discussions and open the door so they can reach out when they need help.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.